And I think a lot of you right now are at that stage in your career in RIMAN where you're really ready to take your business to the next level, really ready to take your skill set to the next level. And I'm going to share with you some ideas and really some concepts that were taught to me at a very early stage in my career that I've used now over the last 30 years in this industry to not just help myself become successful, but really help a lot of people generate a lot of wealth for them. So I really am confident today that this training that I'm going to share with you is really going to help all of you that are team leaders, that are running for director, all of you that are director, that are running for, obviously, all of you that are directors running for senior director, all the senior directors are running for national director, and all the national directors that are running to make sure that they're qualified for whatever position comes next. I guarantee you, if you're really ready to take your business to the next level, I think this training can really have a major impact on your career and on your success. So I'm going to go through it, and I think a lot of you, it's going to speak to many of your hearts, and it's going to take some of you, you're going to be like, wow, I'm already doing that, but I've never heard it stated in that way. Some of you are going to be like, wow, you know what? That's a new concept. I'm going to apply that to what I'm doing. And some of you, it's going to be like mine. You're going to, whoa, this is all brand new stuff. But this is all stuff that my mentor taught me, 30 plus years ago. And I really think that it's going to have a major impact on all of your journeys here at RIMAN. So I'm going to dive right into it. This is called the 6 keys to becoming an effective presenter. And I'm going to start off with number 1. The first key out of the 6 keys is you got to understand the power of presenting. Okay. That's the most important step, I think, is to understand the power of presenting. Because if you don't know how important it is to become an effective presenter, you're not maybe going to engage in the process of becoming a presenter, right? And so here's what I want to share with you. Understanding the power of presenting is simply this: is basically the first thing you want to do is understand that this is what I looked like when I got started. So before I learned how to present, so why I like to show this is, if this is me on day one, nobody on this call is looking like I did on day one. I mean, this is terrible, right? Nobody's going to be able to we wouldn't even sign this guy up. If this guy came to a meeting, I would ask security to escort him out. I'm just kidding, but you guys realize this is what I look like on day one. So if I can learn how to do this, anybody can. So it's not going to be anything that is something somebody can't learn. All this stuff is stuff that you can learn. But this is before my mentor taught me how to be a presenter. So I'm going to show you. In Southern California, we all know about baby rattlesnakes. Maybe some of you don't live in states or areas where there's baby rattlesnakes. And if you don't, good for you, right? I mean, it's not something that we want to have around. But everybody in Southern California knows that baby rattlesnakes are more dangerous than adult rattlesnakes. Right? Why is that? Why is it if a baby rattlesnake hits you, you're really in trouble? But if an adult hits you, you're not going to be in as much trouble. And the reason being is because baby rattlesnakes can't control the quantity of the venom injected. So when they strike you, they can't control it, right? Herpetologists call it venom metering. They can't meter their venom. So when a baby rattlesnake hits you, it gives you all the venom they got. They can't really control the quantity of the venom that they get you when they hit you with it. An adult rattlesnake, they're not going to give you all their venom because they're going to wait for another predator, possibly, right? If they hit you and they're going to hold back some of their venom because they know that there could be another predator that they're going to have to hit with some of their venom. But baby rattlesnakes, they don't. And the reason why that's important is because when I first got started in this industry, direct sales, I'll remember the first time I sat down with somebody. My first company to get started as a distributor was $1,295, right? It was $1,295 in 1996. It was $695 to join and then $500 to get trained. So it was $1,295. No one got any products. There was no products. It was just like basically you sign up. And when I first did my first presentation and I signed somebody up, it was a gentleman by the name of Rob Alarcia. The first person that I sat down, I presented to, and then he got started. When Rob started, I was blown away. I'm like, how in the world did that happen? Like, they still couldn't believe that I'd signed somebody up. But what happened is I then became a baby rattlesnake, right? I was like, oh my God, I can do it. And I just started doing presentation after presentation after presentation after presentation. And I started really developing my skill set very fast. And I know all of you are all team leaders and higher. You know how to do a presentation, whether it be a pop-up, whether it be a sit down at a Starbucks, whether it be a Zoom one-on-one, whether it be a Zoom presentation, whatever methodology, a hotel presentation, home meeting, whatever, or a office meeting, whatever. But when you do a presentation, you know how to do it, right? And get people started. So once that first person gets, in the business, it gives you that feeling of confidence. So what you want to do is you want to develop as many baby rattlesnakes in your organization as possible, meaning that you want to get as many people out there presenting and getting results, because that's how you're going to be able to duplicate. So this is something that was taught to me very early on in my career. When I get a brand new person started, what am I trying to do with them, right? The first thing I'm trying to do is develop them into be a presenter. We want to duplicate, right? I mean, our whole business is what? Teaching people how to do what we know how to do without us helping them do it, right? If you can teach somebody how to do everything you know how to do without you having to help them, and they can do it on their own to the same, if not better than what you do it, that's true duplication, right? So what I always show people is like, first week, whenever you get started, is I'm going to do 100% Okay. And you're going to watch and you're going to learn. Okay. So that first week, if you put me in front of 3 people, you're going to watch me do 3 presentations. If you put me in front of 10 people, you're going to watch me do 10 presentations. Now you're going to learn a lot more by watching me do 10 than by 3. So what I would encourage you to do is that first week as a new presenter, get in front of as many people as possible. So you can watch and learn from my presentations. Because on week number 2, I'm going to do 80 and you're going to do 20. So on week number 2, I'm going to start doing 80%. You're going to start doing 20%. But by week 3, I'm going to be doing 20%. And guess what? You're going to be doing 80%. And then by week 4, I'm going to be watching and learning while you do 100%. Now, this is called 4 weeks to duplication. Now, sometimes it doesn't work necessarily perfect like this. It might take 6 weeks. It might take 8 weeks. But this is the focus. This is what I'm trying to accomplish with every brand new person, every new leg that I open up. I want to teach, train, and duplicate. You open up a new leg, right? You open up a new line of business. You want to teach, train, and duplicate. Open up a new line of business, teach, train, and duplicate, right? Open up a new line, teach, train, and duplicate. And the faster you duplicate, the faster you're going to free up to be able to open up new lines of business, right? But if you don't develop people, you're going to be babysitting that new leg, right? You're going to be, so if I get a brand new leg started and I'm not duplicating them fast enough, I'm going to be in there developing that leg a lot longer than I want to be, because now if I'm spending too much time in that new group, I can't go open up a new line, right? It's like I get trapped in developing that leg. So I want to develop as fast as possible, right? This business is all about teaching and duplicating, right? We all know that. Okay, so I always tell people, do you want to be a workhorse or a show pony? Right? A workhorse is somebody that they get paychecks, right? A show pony is somebody that wants people to think that they're amazing, right? I'm not trying to get people to go, oh my God, that was an amazing presentation. I want people to go, wow, Tim, I signed up a lot of people. So you're not trying to show off, right? You're trying to get results. And a workhorse gets results. A show pony doesn't really duplicate, because their ego fulfillment is getting in front of a crowd of people and people clapping for them and saying, you're so great, right? They want to be the superstar, right? A workhorse wants to get the results. So you always want to understand, look, make sure you're not a show pony, right? Make sure you're not a show pony. You want to be a workhorse. You want to get the results, and you want to duplicate workhorses in your organization. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about it, right? This is a funny one, but I like it. Your goal is to teach people how to do everything that you can do without you doing it, right? The prime example is obviously a toddler, right? Any of you that have got babies, as soon as a baby can wipe their own, the butt, man, you're excited, right? Because that is like, yes, right? And at the beginning, who's going to be able to wipe their butt better, right? Whenever you're teaching a new kid how to wipe their butt, you're doing the laundry, and like, oh my God, there's a couple skid marks in here in the underwear, right? Because they didn't do a really good job, but they've got to go through that in order to be able to do it, because you don't want to be wiping a 20-year-old kid's butt, right? So you want to duplicate fast, right? You want to duplicate quick. And the reason being is because you want them to be able to be self-sufficient and independent, right? So the prime example of that is a book by Daniel Coyle called The Talent Code. And in the Talent Code, he says a teacher is one who makes themselves progressively unnecessary. Okay. A teacher is one that makes himself progressively unnecessary. What does that mean? Progressively meaning like it continues to keep being more and more and more, and unnecessary meaning that they don't need you, right? A good teacher is going to become progressively unnecessary. So we want to duplicate, teach, train, and duplicate so we can open up new lines of business and start developing new leaders, right? We all know that. So I always look at presenting like a relay race, right? The first step in a relay race is what? As the first thing you got to do is you got to receive the baton, right? Success in a relay race is found in the exchange zone, right? The exchange zone is that area where one person passes the baton to the other runner. So first off, you've got to receive the baton. If you're afraid to receive the baton, you're not going to be able to obviously you're not going to be able to run your leg of the race. So always remember the 10 most important 2-letter words is, if it is to be, it's up to me, right? If it is to be, it is up to me. It's up to me to make it happen. It's up to me to step up. It's up to me to get the job done. So what we want to realize is what? You want to receive the baton. You want to say, look, it's I'm going to step up. I'm going to get the job done. You'll never become effective at developing presenters if you don't become a presenter yourself, right? You're going to develop, what you are, not what you want, right? So step number 2 is you got to do what, right? Run your leg of the race, okay? People can't follow in your footsteps if your feet are not moving, right? If you want people to follow in your footsteps, you got to get your feet moving, okay? You've got to run your leg of the race. So when it's your time to be a presenter, which is obviously as the team leaders now, you've got to be running as hard as you can, okay? So you can set the pace for the next person you pass the baton to, which is your new lines of business, right? And when you're developing presenters, always remember you want to be a good fighter, not a fault finder. Okay, when you pass the baton, you want to be a good fighter, not a fault finder. What do I mean by that? You want to look for what you like about your people, not what you dislike. Okay, you're going to be a leader that develops followers if you look at weaknesses, but you'll be a leader that develops leaders if you look at strengths. Talk about what you like about your team, right? So let's look at it. A lot of you've seen me do this before at some of the conventions, but when you look at this, 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4, 3 + 2 is 6, 4 + 4 is 7, 5 + 5 is 10, 6 + 12, 7 + 7 is 14. So when people look at this, naturally what they say is what? They say one of those is wrong, Tim. 4 + 4 is 8, not 7. Because we've been conditioned to look for what's wrong with stuff. Nobody says, hey, you know what? 6 out of those 7 are right. 6 out of 7 of those are correct. They say 1 out of them is wrong. So we've been conditioned to look for what's wrong with stuff, right? That's why to become a leader that develops leaders, you got to look for strengths. You got to look at what you like about people, not what you dislike about people. Okay. So let's look a little bit more into this, right? I love examples. Like, how does a giraffe know it's a giraffe? Right? If you're, I know none of us are giraffes, but if you're a giraffe and you're like walking around and say, hey, am I a giraffe? You're going to know you're a giraffe as soon as you do what? When you give birth to a giraffe, right? So it's the same thing. Okay. To be a leader, you've got to give birth to other leaders, right? To be a presenter, you got to give birth to other presenters. It's how many presenters can we develop, right? And that's the most important thing. And let me give you an example, right? You've got to develop your learning process, right? Now step number 2 is what? Expedite the learning process. Okay. Meaning, what do I mean by expedite the learning process? Is you can control how fast you grow. Let me say it again. You can control how fast you grow. You can expedite your learning, right? Let me talk a little bit about how to do that, right? I'm going to give you guys some of the 10 most important tips to becoming an effective presenter. Number 1 is understanding the fact that new skills takes time. Nobody's going to be a natural, right? Nobody's going to be a natural. You look at some of these amazing presenters, the Karen Kings, right? You look at the, Steve Youngs, right? The Brianna Michaels, right? All these great presenters that are in RIMAN. They weren't great at day one. It's not like, Steve Young was like born and came out of his mom's womb and he's like, hey, you know what? Put me on a Zoom right now. I'm ready to present, right? He became good because he did what? Right? He committed to the process of growth. So realize that nobody's going to be a natural. It's going to take time to develop your skill set, right? But understand that if you want to be a serious student, you've got to, if you haven't read your first year network marketing, I used to teach people in the 90s when I would work with somebody that I'm not even going to work with you directly if you haven't read this book. So when I would sponsor a brand new person, I would say, like, you have to read this book. Step number one, you've got to read this book. You've got to read this book, Your First Year in Network Marketing by Mark Yarnell. And the reason being is because that book will teach you the fundamentals of everything that I'm showing you. It'll teach that I train the way that I develop leaders and the way that I teach how to duplicate and the way that I build network marketing is based upon this book, Your First Year Network Marketing. So I tell them, man, you got to have a journal and you got to read Your First Year Network Marketing, because in that book, they're going to understand the first steps to how to become successful in network marketing. And a journal is going to help them document all the information they learn so then they can show their leaders and show their teams what they've been learning so they can quickly duplicate, right? Everybody knows that, okay? And then obviously turn your car into a mobile classroom, right? I always show people, you want to be listening to personal growth and development, right? Everybody knows that, right? Everybody listens to personal growth and development. Jim Rohn's one of my favorite, Les Brown, John C. Maxwell, Zig Ziglar, Robert Kiyosaki, Brian Tracy. There's tons and tons and tons of personal growth and development. I don't care what somebody listens to, just listen to something, right? If they're listening to a song, I know they're not developing, right? When I drive, I listen to Your First Year Network Marketing on audio, right? It's in Apple Books, right? I listen to it all the time. Even though I've read that book so many times, I've listened to audio so many times, I always want to stay focused on what the fundamentals, right? So let me give an example. Everybody knows more meetings means more money. Really, when a brand new person gets started, I always try to teach them, look, the first 4 weeks, you want to get on as many Zooms as possible. Why? Because they want to be able to get the presentation down, right? They want to be able to get how to present information down. So yeah, there's a lot of different teams do Zooms all the time. We've got company Zooms, right? Tuesday, Thursday, all these things are happening. We want to get new people plugged in as soon as possible. Why? Because we want to develop as many people as possible. But that first 4 weeks, they want to be able to get the presentation now. Okay. So I always tell people, man, you know, as your organization grows, that first 4 weeks, you want to jump on as many presentation you can with all your new people so you guys can all learn and earn together. Okay. So the other one is obviously guard your mind, right? You want to eliminate negative self-talk. You got to eliminate negative self-talk. You've got to be your number one cheerleader. You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to know that you've got what it takes. You've got to believe 100% that you can do it. Okay. And only give positive feedback. You want to avoid negative criticism. When you're developing presenters, what you want to do is you want to, if I'm on week 4, I'm like, you're going to do the presentation I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch them do the presentation. I'm just going to write down things that I liked. And I'm going to tell them I like this, I like that, I like this, I like that. I'm not going to tell them anything I don't like. And the reason being is because I want them to get the confidence to just want to start doing presentations, right? And then obviously, how you do anything is how you do everything. Okay. How you do anything is how you do everything. This is big, right? You want to just set the pace, set the tempo. You want to believe in your people, right? You want to believe in your people. I remember when I first got involved in this industry, I wanted to do all the presentations because I needed the volume. And I knew that if I did the presentation, there was a better chance of them signing up than if they did the presentations. But once I realized it's not about how good I am, it's about how many presenters I can develop. That's when everything took off for me. That's when I started making the big bucks. Okay. So, you want to expedite your learning process. Okay. The time will never be just right. So you want to start presenting today. So many times people are like, oh, I'm going to wait. It just start going. Why is it so important to develop a presenter? Why do I want presentations going on? Because if a new person or somebody that's within the first 4 weeks or whatever, they're presenting the information, who's getting excited? Hopefully the person they're presenting to is getting excited, but they're getting excited because they're sharing why they're excited about the business. When somebody is quote unquote presenting the information, right? Whenever they're presenting RIMAN, they're getting excited. They're getting sold. because they're selling themselves, not just the new person that they're trying to get started. Okay. So you don't want to be the king or queen. You want to be the king or queen maker. You want to be the king or queen maker. It's all about developing people. Okay. The best presenter never wins. This is big. The best presenter never wins. Okay. It's the person who can duplicate the most presenter always wins. So it's not about how good you can get. It's about how many people you can get presenting. Whoever has look, if I'm out there and I'm presenting and I'm the only presenter on my team, or I've got 100 presenters out there presenting, who's going to win? Right? The person has got one or the person has got 100. Obviously, you guys all know it's all about who can develop the most presenters. So how do you develop a presenter? You first got to become one, right? You got to lead. You got to lead by example. And people always ask me, say, Jim, when do I know? Right? How do I know to pass the baton? If you're doing so many presentations that you can't do them all, right? I've only got so many hours in a day. I can't do every presentation. So I've got my schedule booked to capacity. Right when I'm off this call, I got another call, another call. Then I'm going to go do the VIP event in Southern California. I've got calls lined up nonstop. So I can't do every presentation. So your duplication is almost a natural process. As an organization is growing and they're signing up so many people, they need more presentations going on. Okay. So number 3, right? Opening is the most important stage. There's 3 stages to presenting. And the most important stage is what? Opening up the prospect. Opening up the prospect is more important than any other stage. Let's talk about what those 3 stages look like, okay? Opening a prospect is stage number 1. Stage number 2 is presenting the information, and stage number 3 is closing, okay? So in stage number 1, this is the most important stage. Opening up your prospect, right? Discovering their hot buttons, asking for them, family, occupation, recreation, and money, asking questions, ask. Well, I want to create a little bit of pain. And how do I do that is by basically holding a mirror up and letting them look at their life, and they're going, wow, you know what? I could use some more money, or I could use a little bit something different, right? And then basically at opening stage, I'm getting them ready to get started, right? In the presentation part, which is out of the 3, that's the least important stage. All you're doing is sharing the prospect, the RIMAN opportunity. You're answering these 3 questions. Is it real? Can I do it? What's in it for me? Right? And you're making the product a superstar. And you're showing them that RIMAN is a solution to whatever pain that you created, right? Or you could see, right? And then stage number 3 is what? Right? Having the link ready to enroll them. Right? AAFTC, always ask for the close, overcome objections, receive payment, post-close, set up a connection call, right? Or set up a connection call or welcome call, whatever you want to call it, to launch that brand new person, okay? So out of the stages, number 1 is the most important opening. So let's talk a little bit about it. I'm going to give you 11 tips. Whoever's presenting that information that night, you want to make sure that that presenter is properly edified, right? So give you the prime example would be what? Now, if I'm doing a presentation, or if I'm bringing somebody to do a presentation and so-and-so's doing it, I got to make sure so-and-so is got I'm saying a lot of good things about so-and-so. Because I want to edify that presenter. Because if that presenter is properly edified, that person's going to be able to get started. Okay. The second stage is what, right? The second tip is what? Always believe 100% they're getting started. Right? I always believe 100% that somebody's getting started at the biggest package possible. Okay. I always have that 100% confidence. Okay. And you always remember, have one chance to make a first impression. So you want to give them eye contact, smiles, gentle touches, build trust, appropriate attire, right? Appropriate attire. Okay. Whatever it looks like, whether it's a home meeting or a pop-up or a hotel meeting, presentation, whatever it is, right? A one-on-one at Starbucks, just look the part, right? You don't have to be over the top. You don't want people leaving going, wow, did you see how nice dressed they were? I don't want somebody to walk away and all they're talking about is how good my dress, how great I looked. I also don't want them to leave and say, man, that guy looked like a bomb, right? I want them to be able to not even really think about it, right? So how do I do that, right? I don't want to come in the nicest suit on the planet and make them go, oh my God, that guy looked amazing. And then they're not even listening to what I'm talking about. They're talking about how great my suit was, right? So I want to dress good, but not too good. I don't want to dress too bad either. I want to dress in the middle so they're not even thinking about it, okay? And then obviously sit next to your prospects. You never want, if you're sitting on a table, you never want to be across the table. You want to sit next to somebody because you're an assistant buyer, right? We all know that, okay? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So you want to make sure at the beginning you're really forming them, right? You're really doing what? Asking questions. You're asking the questions about their family. You're asking questions about occupation, recreation, money. You want to find out when you're talking to a prospect, why would they want to get started in RIMAN? If I'm doing a one-on-one, I'm doing this. If I'm doing a one-on-one Zoom, I'm doing this, right? Every time I'm doing any type of presentation, I'm trying to find out what it is that these people want. Now, if I'm doing a bigger presentation, I don't have time to form everybody. I'm going to make sure I hit on all these things. I'm going to hit on spending more time with your family or walking away from your job or being on a vacation more, travel more, or have more money so you don't have to worry. I'm going to hit all these things in my presentation because everybody's going to have a different hot button, right? When they get them saying me too, not so what, right? How do you do that? Whatever they're talking about, just connect with them, right? If somebody's like, man, I like skiing and you like snowboarding, you're like, skiing? What? That's stupid. Like, that's not what you want to do. You want to be like, man, skiing, I always wanted to ski. I've always respected them so much, man. I only know how to snowboard, but I need to really learn how to ski. Like, how long have you been doing that? Just get people talking about whatever it is they like, right? Ask open door questions that are what, when, where, why, how. When you ask a question with what, when, where, why, how, you're going to get them to talk more. Okay, if I ask a are you, do you, have you, which is a closed door question, I'm only going to get a like yes or no response. I'm going to ask a what, when, where, why, how question. So I get them talking more, right? Always be a great listener. You want to give physical feedback, get into what they're saying physically, give them spoken feedback. Just, wow, oh my God, that's great. Just get into what they're saying is what I like to call it, right? Get into what they're saying. Okay. And here's another one, right? Always remember your body never lies. So you want to, your body is always going to tell people the truth. So you want to, you want to expect them to get in. You want to be over the top confident. You got to know that they're going to get in, right? You want to lean forward, have confidence, always be prepared, have a notepad, documents, laminates, brochures, products, whatever it is that you want to bring there, make sure you got it. You never want to be in a situation where like, dang, you know what? I wish I had this. Now, sometimes if I'm doing a one-on-one at a Starbucks, I might have the products in my car because I don't want to walk in with a bunch of products and be like, what is going on here, right? So if I'm doing a one-on-one at a Starbucks, then I might start talking about the products and I'll be like, man, I wish I had them here. I would love to show you what some of them are. And then I'll go, you know what? I think I might have some in the car. Let me go check. And then I'll walk out to the car and come back and have the products, right? So I sometimes don't like to come in with a bunch of products looking all like, what are they? You know what I mean? If I'm walking into one-on-one, they're like, what is this guy doing? So sometimes I'll leave the products in my car and then I'll be like, man, I wish I had the products I can show you. And I'll be like, you know what? I might have them. Let me go check. And so then I'll run out to my car and go grab them, right? So here it is. Here it is, number 4. Okay, here's a great one, right? Presenting, just do it. The best way to start presenting is just do it. Okay, just do it. Okay, so first thing I always do is I change your listening. And I'm going to tell you what I say before I show you. Okay. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because I want you to know it's memorized. I've been doing this for 30 years. One of my mentors taught me this very early on, and I never, ever, ever not say it. So when I'm about to present information to somebody, here's what I say. See, I'm going to give you enough information for you to be able to make an educated decision if RIMAN's, products can help change you and your family's financial future. You taking up your time and me taking up my time when I'm all done today. Give me a simple yes or no, because you and I both know, and maybe you're thinking about it's a nice way of saying no. Is that fair? And I'll give him a firm handshake. Now, if I'm doing a presentation to sell products, I might be like, look, I'm going to give you enough information for you to be able to make like an educated decision. RIMAN products are like, going to be the products that you want, that they're going to be the best products you've ever used, right? You're going to be able to say, man, you know what? These are the best products. In the time that I'm taking up and the time you're taking up, just give me a simple yes or no. Okay, because you and I both know maybe you're thinking about it's a nice way of saying no. So just tell me if you want to try these products or not. By the time I get done, you're going to see clearly that they work. And then boom, I just get into it. Because what I don't want people to do, I want to change your listening. If I'm going to do a presentation, I want people to be able to say, okay, look, at the end of this presentation, I have to make a decision. So I have to listen intently. So I changed your listenings right from the beginning. And this is what I just said. I said, right now I'm going to give you enough information. This is exactly what I just said. Okay. And I've said this. I say this in every presentation I ever do, because I want the prospect to realize at the end of the presentation, they are going to have to make a decision. So they're going to have to listen with a different set of ears, right? They're going to have to pay more attention. So this is something that I've always used time and time again. That was my mentor taught me. Okay. So just do it, right? Here's 12 tips on how to become an effective presenter. If you like some of these, use them. If you don't like them, don't use them. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just giving you guys tips that was taught to me that I use. Okay. Understanding is the first part of influencing. Okay. Understanding where somebody is the first part of influencing. So you first need to understand, then be understood. I want to know where they're coming from. Okay. When I'm sitting down to do a presentation with somebody, I want to know where they're coming from. I want to know what's happening in their life, right? I want to know where they're coming from, because if I have to understand where they are. It's kind of like playing hide and seek, right? You got to know where somebody is. You know what I mean? If you're out there playing hide and seek, you got to find out where they are first, right? You can't just go out there and just be like, all right, I want hide and seek. It's like, you didn't find nobody. So I like to find out where they are. Obviously, identification is everything. So I want to identify with the person, right? I want to be able to identify with them whenever I'm presenting to them. Identification is everything. And I'll talk more about that in the believability gap. Open them up to something different, right? I always tell people like, hey, basically like, usual way, usual pay, unusual way, unusual pay. So when I looked at this information for the first time, what got me excited about it was a different way of making money. I didn't want to do what everybody else was doing. I wanted to do something different because I wanted to have something different, something like that, right? And the decision making is 20% logic, 80% emotion. Right? You don't want to fat people to death, right? I always call it like my mentor always said, you want to dig the roots or pick the fruits? So whenever I hear people's presentations that are just way too logical, I just always like, there's a joke that we always talk about. It's like, dude, that person is root digging, right? They're just straight digging up roots. You just want to give enough information for people to be able to justify an emotional decision, right? This is from Jim Rohn, right? Jim Rohn teaches this. You don't want to be just throwing out information after information after information after information after information after information. They're like, whoa, confused minds don't get started, right? So just enough logic just to justify an emotional decision, right? Number 5 is get your prospects in the yes mode. You follow me, right? That makes sense. Do you see what I'm saying? Things like that. You don't want to use the same one over and over and over again, right? You'll hear people like, yes or yes, yes or yes, yes or yes, yes or yes. It's like, dude, use something else. Like, you sound like a weirdo, right? So when you're doing a presentation, you don't want to just sound like the same one. Does that make sense? 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 It's like, oh my God, use another one. You're following what I'm saying, right? I mean, you can see how that makes sense, right? You want to say different ones. You don't want to sound like a weird robot, okay? Remove all the objections in the presentation. This might be the most important part of presenting. The reason why we do presentations is to remove any objection that you hear throughout the presentation. So if I do 5 presentations and the same objection shows up on all 5 presentations, what's that tell me? What's that tell me? But obviously I didn't remove that objection in the presentation. The only reason why we do, my mentor said, Tim, if we didn't do, the only reason why we do presentations is to remove objections. He goes, if we didn't have to remove objections, we wouldn't do presentations. We just have a window and people just line up and get started. Okay. You are here to, that's why we do a presentation. So whatever objections you hear, you want to remove them throughout the presentation. So when you get to the close, that objection doesn't exist. Okay. And how you do that is the believability gap. I'll talk about that in a second. Paint them in the picture. What's in it for me? So how do you paint somebody in the picture? Let's say that I'm doing a presentation. I'm giving them an income example, right? And, you're like, hey, as a team leader, you can start making some pretty significant income, and you start saying, what, as a team leader, what if you could make an extra 10,000 a month? Like, how would that help you out? Right? How would that help you out? Like, what would happen in your life differently if you were making an extra 10,000 a month on top of what you're already making now? Right? I'm asking a question and I'm stimulating thought process. I'm not saying, would you like to make 10,000 a month? That's a yes or no question. I'm saying, what would you do with an extra 10,000 a month? And I'm going to answer it. Maybe you'll be able to help out your family more, right? Maybe you'll be able to get a little bit of time off from your job, right? Maybe maybe able to get a little bit of, maybe not have to work so much at your job, right? Maybe you may be able to travel more, right? Maybe be able to save up more money, you know what I mean, to be able to pay off bills. What did I just do? Family, occupation, migration, and money, right? You paint them into the picture, right? You don't just ask a question and hope they're thinking about it. If I'm doing a presentation, I ask a question and then boom, boom, boom. If I'm doing a one-on-one, I already know what their hot button is. If somebody's like, Tim, I want to make an extra 5,000 a month or 10,000 a month because I want to help retire my wife, or that I want to be able to, my husband is working around the clock all the time. I want to be able to help my husband out with some of the bills. So I already know what that why is. So when I start talking about the big money, I'm going to say, you think that would help out, whatever their why is, right? Whatever their hot button is. Okay. I always use voice inflection. You don't want to be monotone. Like I can change the meaning of a sentence by the way that I inflect a certain word. Like, give me an example. If I said, I'm going to use the phrase, he did not steal the cell phone, right? He did not steal the cell phone. If I say he did not steal the cell phone, that means somebody else did. Okay. If I said he did not steal the cell phone, that means he just borrowed it. If I say he did not steal the cell phone, that means he stole the charger, right? So you can change the meaning of a word of a sentence by doing what? By inflecting a certain word in that sentence. If you're monotone when you communicate, you're not going to be as effective as somebody that has voice inflection. Okay. So you want to learn how to use your voice. I used to be very monotone when I got involved in this industry, but I learned how to use my voice, right? So you want to make sure you're not monotone. Okay. A good presentation will educate, entertain, and inspire. Obviously, we know that. I don't have to get into that. Obviously, you want to make fun of yourself, right? You don't want to come across where you're just trying to brag about yourself, right? You're not trying to impress people. Right. Sometimes I'll watch presentation. I'm like, oh my God, this person is literally just trying to brag about themselves. And it's like, that does not come across well at all. Because what happens is they're going to start making fun of you. They're going to find something that they don't like about you and they're going to start using it in their mind. But if you kind of make fun of yourself, like I like to talk about me, an ugly guy in the beauty industry. Come on. I like using that, right? Because it's so funny, right? I don't want to say it's funny, right? Somebody's like, that's not that funny, Tim. But what I'm making fun of myself, right? What I like to do is my mentor told me, says, make fun of yourself. If not, your prospect's going to, right? So whatever it is about you, it doesn't make a difference. Okay. Just say something to kind of break the ice. You're not trying to come across, if people that come across that want other people to think a certain way of them, it's because they're very insecure. If I want you to look at me and be like, oh my God, that guy's amazing. Only reason why I want you to think that way is because I'm insecure. If I know I'm the deal, right? If I know I'm a great person, if I know I've got what it takes, I don't need you to think that way about me. I think that way about me. You guys see that? So people that come across that are like show ponies that try to get other people to look up to them, it's because they really have insecurities. So be secure with yourself. Know you got what it takes, and then basically dumb you down a little bit. Okay. Now, what I always do is give commercials for the next event. So if I'm doing an event, I'm going to talk about the next event that I'm rolling them into, right? Meaning whatever, like if I'm doing a presentation, right? Like some of you guys come to my Monday nights at the office. All I do is talk about the Tuesday orientation. I'll talk about the Tuesday orientation 5-15, maybe like every 3 to 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes. I'm always giving a presentation. I'm giving a commercial for the next event. If I'm doing a home meeting, let's say Monday night, I'm doing say I'm doing a pop-up Tuesday night. I'm doing whatever the next event is, I'm always promoting it because I got to get them to a second exposure right away. Because to me, I don't care what that second exposure is. I just got to get them to another exposure, right? So I'm always giving commercials for the next event. My mentor said, close for what you want, close for what they want, and close for the next event. So I'm always giving commercials nonstop for whatever the next thing is I'm promoting. Okay. Obviously, prospects don't care where you are. They care where you're going. Don't think like, once I become a national director, Tim, people are going to follow me. That doesn't make any sense. People don't care where you are. They care where you're going. Right? People care where you're going. So don't wait until you are like, once I start making a lot of money, Tim, I'm going to start really presenting. No, you're not. Right? Just start doing it now. Okay. So here it is. We're wrapping this thing up. The believability gap. This is obviously key, 6 keys. Number 5. And let's take a look at that. I'm doing really good. I think on time. Yeah, I'm doing great. Okay. So closing the believability gap. I want to spend some time here because this is, Jim Rohn teaches this. And this is something that really helped me out so much in our industry, because this is how you remove an objection. Okay. It's closing the believability gap. So let me give an example what the believability gap is. Okay. So the believability gap is identify, attack, and confess, logic, and reason, call to action. Okay. So whatever the objection is, it doesn't matter what the objection is. I just put the objection into this believability gap and words come out. Okay. So if it's, let's just say I do a presentation and I hear over and over and over and over again the same exact objection. Okay, if I do 4 presentations and I get the same objection, doesn't mean I can't remove the objection after the presentation. I understand that. But if after the presentation is over, I hear the same objection 4 times in a row or 5 times in a row, I need to make sure I annihilate that objection in the presentation. Annihilate that objection. If I completely annihilate that objection in the presentation, I'm not going to hear it when I get to the close. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Put yourself in my shoes for a second. Okay. When I got involved in this industry, I was 17 years old. Okay. I was recruiting a bunch of 17 and 18-year-old kids. Okay. Back in 1996, when I got started doing this, nobody had any money, right? I mean, it wasn't like in 96, all my friends had $1,295, right? Nobody had $1,295. So what I had to do is I had to annihilate, I had to destroy, okay, the objection of I don't have money, right? I mean, I literally got that so perfected, okay? And I would do it in a story format by following what Jim Rohn teaches here: identify, attack, and confess, logic, and reason, call to action. It doesn't matter what the objection is. If you remove it using the believability gap, that's how you remove objections, okay? So like, give me an example. At the beginning of the presentation, you guys all know the flow, right? At the beginning, we're talking more about the ICP, right? That's ICP. The industry's never really changed from the standpoint of like a presentation is a presentation. You first start off with ICP, industry, company, and products, right? Industry, company, products, and then you get into the compensation plan and the money. So in the ICP part, at the beginning, I'm not talking about my call to action is not going to be, so I got started right away. My call to action is I got really open-minded. This started to get me a little bit more excited, whatever it is. I'm building up for it. Then by the end of the presentation, my call to action in my believability gap is that's what got me. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. When I couldn't even sleep when I got started, I was so excited, right? So I'm taking the call to action is going to change throughout the presentation, but just let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I'll use it. I'm not going to go over the top with one. I'll just use one real quickly. I'll just talk about the money excuse, right? Because I was talking about that earlier, but it doesn't really matter what the excuse is. You can put any excuse in here. If you hear an objection over and over and over again, you just got to do a good job of removing it, and then bam, you're going to call to action. And this is exactly what you do to get people into action, right? If you're like, I find 5 people, Tim, and nobody wants to talk to their friends. Okay, well, you're not using the believability gap right here and removing that objection whenever you're launching them, right? Whatever, doesn't matter what it is, right? What I'm saying is that this is how you remove an objection, okay? Anytime. So the objection of getting started, but once they get started, it's not like now it's like, okay, they're in. I don't have to use the believability gap anymore. I have to use the believability gap until somebody's making a fortune in this industry. You're always using this, right? So you identify, attack the problem, confess you had the problem, give them enough logic and reason. Remember 2080 to justify the call to action, right? So I use the example of I didn't have any money. So like when I first looked at this information for the first time, I was like, man, this is amazing. And then they showed me that it was like, when I got started, it was $1,295 to get started. And I was like, whoa, watch, I'm doing identify, right? I'm identifying. I was like, whoa, $1,295. I'm going to attack the problem, confess it, right? I'm thinking $1,295. I don't have $1,295. And I realized if I don't have $1,295 now after working at a job for 1 year, and I don't have a lot of responsibilities now, only being 17 years old, I'm going to have more responsibilities as I get older. So that's logic and reason. So I figured I needed to do something different, right? If I was working for a year and I didn't have the money, what I was doing obviously wasn't working. So I needed to do something a little bit different. So when I looked at this for the first time, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to find the money. So I got started and literally everything changed for me. So it's identify, attack and confess, logic and reason, call to action. And at the beginning, you'll get really good at this the more that you do it. But it's all about understanding. Remember what I said earlier, understanding is the most important part of influencing. If I can understand where they're coming from and identify with them, I can take them over there, right? So everything that you're doing when you're doing a presentation is designed to remove objections, whether it's a pop-up, whatever it is, whatever you're trying to accomplish, whether it's launching a brand new person, whatever it is. If you launch 4 or 5 people and they keep saying the same thing, what do you know you're not doing? You're not destroying whatever they're saying in your launch presentation, right? Or your welcome call. So whatever it is, you have to annihilate it, whatever it is. And if you remove that objection, bam, you're in business, right? So identify, attack, and confess, logic, and reason, call to action. You guys will master this the more that you do it, okay? So AAFTC, I'm going to wrap this thing up here. This is out of the 6 keys to become an effective presenter. This is number 6, actually. AAFTC, right? Always ask for the close. Okay? Always ask for the close. This is basically what this is, the 12 tips on becoming an effective closer. This is important to understand. Like, if you guys watch baseball, who's the closer? Okay? And I know some of you are like, baseball, Tim, are you serious? All right, I'd rather watch paint dry than baseball. Okay, me too. Okay, but here's what I'm some of your baseball fans like, hey, don't say that. I like that sport. My son plays baseball. To me, is about as exciting to watch paint dry. But at the end of the game, there's always somebody that comes in. Not always, but usually there's a closer that comes in to win the game. Right? Not win, but seal the game. So usually they'll have somebody pitch for 4, 5, 6 innings, whatever. If they get a lead, then there's somebody that comes in on the last inning to seal the deal. Right? They call that person the closer, right? Because he closes the game. He makes sure that other team can't come back. So closing, basically what that is basically sealing it up, right? Getting them involved and making a decision, okay? So let's talk a little bit about it, right? Confidence, urgency, fear of loss. Always remember that people are going to be more motivated by fear of loss than hope of gain. Most people are more, so even for me, even when I got started in RIMAN, when I saw RIMAN Village, I knew that my buddy Danny Bay was going to become wealthy here. I knew it. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to become wealthy. This thing is going to blow up. So when I'm doing a one-on-one for somebody, right? If I'm doing a presentation or even a launch presentation, they got like 5 or 6 of their friends on a Zoom or a home meeting, a pop-up, and I'm doing that presentation for my new person. My whole objective is for the prospects to know the person I'm working with is going to become successful. If they know that person's going to become successful, they're going to be afraid not to get started. So I use confidence, urgency, and fear of loss. Okay. So always remember, you want to have that application, that online application, know the links, have that online application ready because you want to walk them through it, right? That right after the presentation is over, you want to walk them through it. Okay. You don't want to just send them a link. All right, man, have at it. It's like, hey man, I'm going to be there for you every step of the way. I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm going to make it happen with you. And then the first thing you do is say, hey, figure it out on your own, right? It's like, no, you just told them that you're going to be there for them every step of the way. You're going to help them get started. You're going to help them make it happen. You're going to be there with them. The first step then is what? Enrolling them, help them get started, help them pick the right package, right? Number thing is always expect a premium starter set, right? Or always expect the biggest one, right? I always expect people to get started with the biggest pack, right? Some of you guys get people started at senior manager. I'm always expecting people to get started at senior manager. Even when I'm working with a group that I know that that's not a possibility, I always at least show it to them. You know what I mean? I always show it to them, but I expect them to want to do it. Now, it's not like I'm going to pressure somebody into getting started at a higher pack than what they want, but I'm going to make sure that I help them get started. Right? I'm not going to make it seem sleazy. You understand? Like, you don't want to come across as somebody that's like high pressure trying to, because you're closing for 3 things, right? You're closing for what you want, what they want in the next event, right? What you want is what? You want them in your business. What they want is they want to be successful, and you're closing for the next event. Okay. So I always expect everybody to at least get a premium set. Like, I can't, like, I don't even, like, when people get started with like a smaller set, and then I'm like, what? I mean, it doesn't even make sense to me. Like, how are you going to go to battle with like a spoon and a knife? Like, I'm getting everybody started with at least a premium set, at least one, right? So at the end of the presentation, did you see a way? I'm expecting to make it started. Did you see a way for you to be able to get, the car you always wanted, or to be able to retire your husband? Did you see a way for you to be able to have more free time with your family? You're right, to be able to spend more time with your kids, whatever their hot button is, right? Did you see a way? Be quiet, right? And then ask a closing question and be quiet. Okay. You want to ask a closing question and be quiet. You don't want to keep talking. I've seen people talk themselves out of a close, right? I'll be watching people and it's like, they'll be like, hey, Tim, can you stop by and say a few words after the presentation? Yeah, okay. So I'll walk over there and they're just talking and talking and talking. It's like the person is ready to get started. Stop talking and get them in, because now you're showing that you're insecure. You don't know how to ask for the close, right? So ask a closing question and be quiet. Let them respond and then enroll them. Okay, AAFTC. Use a cushion. You guys all know this. Phil found out how I feel. A lot of people felt like that. Here's what they found out. You guys want to close. Persistent wears down resistance. 7 no's equals a yes. If somebody says no and they're still sitting there, what does that tell you, right? If they're still sitting there, they want to do it. Always remember that. If I'm on a Zoom with somebody and they haven't hit that button that says I'm leaving, they want to get started, right? So after a presentation, I'm closing somebody and they're still there and they haven't hit see you later, right? That little button that says bye-bye. They still want to get closed. So I'm going to keep on closing until they get in. So fill out their online app with them. You guys see that? You want to fill the application out with them. You don't want to be able to be like, all right, here, I'm going to send you the link. Okay. Now, sometimes you're going to be too busy. You can't. You've got too many people getting started. You have to. But if at all possible, walk them through it. Okay. Show them how to do it, right? Show them how to fill it out. Okay. Mainly because if there's any questions or, you can always help out. People won't be afraid to join you if they know that you know where you're going. The most important thing when you're doing a presentation is what? When you walk away, they're going to go, wow, that person's going to become successful. That person's going to make it happen. And if I'm doing a presentation for somebody's new people, that's the first thing I want them saying. You know what? Janet is going to become successful because she's working with that guy and he's going to make sure no matter what she makes it. That's magical, right? Mainly if you've been in for a while, you guys, some of you guys are very, very, very good. You know, I talk to a lot of our, like some of my best presenters all the time. And I'm like, you know, like I tell Chrissy Bellison this all the time. I say, Chrissy, your skill set is out of control, like out of control. So when you do a presentation, people are like, well, she can make it happen, but I don't know if I can. So it's important to make people know that, like, if I'm doing a presentation for a new person, it's like, I'm working with Janet. I'm going to make sure that Janet makes it. So whoever works with Janet's going to become successful. They're like, oh my God, I got to get in with Janet because Janet's going to work with this person that knows what they're doing. Now, if you're learning your skill sets, still come across with confidence, because always remember this: the one-eyed person rules the valley of the blind. Say it again: the one-eyed person rules the valley of the blind. Okay, you just got to, you know, my mentor said, fake it till you make it. That doesn't mean like, you know, lie to people about how well you're doing. Fake it till you make it is fake the confidence. If you don't feel like you have it, man, you got to convince yourself that you've got it. Right now, I'm not saying like, you know, some people say faith it till you make it. Right, that's the same thing to me. It's like you just got to believe that you're going to make it happen. Faith it till you make it. Right. Some people close to live and other people live to close. I put that picture of Mariano Rivera, right? Mariano Rivera was the best closer in baseball of all time, right? He was so good that they let him use Jackie Robinson's number. Like Jackie Robinson's number is retired. Nobody's allowed to have Jackie Robinson's number. But Mariano Rivera, I don't know how he did it, if he was able somehow to get it, right? Maybe the Jackie Robinson's family was like, dude, this guy's too good. He can have our number. He can have our guy's number. But always remember, you want to be that closer, meaning that you got to, I don't close to live, meaning I'm coming across as desperate. I'm coming across like, man, I woke up this morning thinking to myself, who can I get started in RIMAN? Whose life can I change today? That's the magic, right? And then obviously, if you don't get the close, you got to make sure you leave them happy and get them to the next event. Like if for some reason they don't want to do it, I'm not pounding on them. Like we are the PR team for RIMAN. And anytime that I get done with the presentation with somebody, I want them to walk away and be like, dude, I met those people down at RIMAN. Hey, it wasn't for me, but you know what? Those guys are so cool. Those people are so rad. You know, I was hanging out with that guy, Tim, dude, that guy really is awesome. Like, that's the mindset that I want to accomplish. Like, you want people to, no matter what, when they walk away from you, to be like, you know what? That was the best experience of my life, whether I got started or not. I had fun and I could tell those people cared and they really are good people. That's the objective in every presentation. Okay. You're not trying to pound on people or make people feel uncomfortable or, you know what I mean, high pressure or anything like that. The most important thing is, so when people walk away, to be like, wow, you know what? Those guys are awesome, right? Those people are awesome. Those women are so cool. Like, I loved it, right? AFTC, right? And basically, you guys all know, right? When you get started today, you want to stay on course, right? What was it that I said the other day when I was doing a call? I said, oh man, this is good. I just came up with this one. I don't know how this one came about. Somebody it was through the ether, right? Don't be emotionally connected to the results, right? Don't be emotionally connected to the results, right? Don't be emotionally connected to the results you get. Be emotionally connected to the effort you give. It's not about the results that you get. It's about the effort you give. Think about that, right? Don't be emotionally connected to the results you get. Be emotionally connected to the effort you give. To me, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to do the best that I can every day. When I wake up, I've got my schedule booked. I'm going to be doing presentations all day long, and I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm going to do the best that I can. And then tomorrow, I'm going to wake up, and guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to do the best that I can. And then the next day, I'm going to wake up, and guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to do the best that I can. If we keep doing the best that we can over and over and over and over and over and over again, we are going to get the results. And we're going to get the results. So let's go all out massive action. At the beginning, it's just going to be you and your team's a little bit different, a little bit small. But then as you start to grow, your team's going to start growing. After about 30 days, you're going to start to have a little bit more, you're going to have organization starting to grow. So your effort's going to be my effort's going to be the same no matter what, but my results are going to be more because my group's starting to duplicate. After 60 days, my effort and my results are going to be different. 90 days, my effort, my results. So it's not that you get your efforts less, it's that your results on that same amount of effort is more. So after 90 days, it's kind of like, if I get started here, I'm going to become successful. And then I get, boom, I go to the top, right? But what happens is, if I'm going to make it happen, I'm excited, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to win big. And then all of a sudden I get nudged off course, then I'm going to end up over here with a black eye, right? We want to make sure that we stay on course every single day. Every single day, no matter what. You want to do your absolute very best. Now, I know some of us have got full-time careers. Some of us have got obviously motherly duties, father duties, family duties. Obviously, I understand that. But what we want to do is do the best that we can with the time restraints that we have. Okay, if we always give the best that we can, it's going to compound, right? It's going to compound. And whatever you can do, give it your best. Give it your all. You can do this. You got to make up your mind right now and say, hey, you know what? This is it, right? This is my time to make it happen. This is my time to become a success. Guess what? This is my time to go all out. I'm not going to let this window of opportunity slip through my fingertips. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to step up. I'm going to the top, right? I'm going to be a director no matter what. I'm going to be on that Jeju Island trip. Okay. Maybe you didn't qualify for that last, for the event. the one that just happened, but hey, I'm going to qualify for that next event. I'm going to be in Jeju Island no matter what, right? Let's make a commitment in our mind right now, and a commitment in our heart says, this is it. This is my time to do something great. This is my time to do something special. Over, under, or through, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to step up. I'm going to get the job done. This is my time to do something special. I'm going to change so many people's lives. I'm going to help so many people grow. I'm not going to let this window of opportunity slip through my fingertips, man. I'm going all out massive action. If it is to be, it's up to me. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to get the job done. I'm going to be a success. I'm going to make my goals and dreams become reality. This is it. So let's go all out massive action. Let's make it happen. Some of these ideas, I hope they helped you. Let's give it everything that we got. Let's help a lot of people win. And God bless you guys. We'll see you guys all the top. Let's make it happen, everybody. Appreciate you guys.